The data core chamber looked like a nightmare. The walls were completely covered in organic matter that pulsed and breathed. In the center of the room was a massive structure that was half machine and half living tissue. Tubes connected it to the ceiling and floor, pumping fluids through them. This was the brain of the hive. This was what controlled everything. Yuna and Taeyang stood at the entrance, watching carefully. There were no guards, no warriors, just the data core itself beating like a giant heart. "It is too easy," Yuna whispered. Her leg was still bleeding, but she ignored it. "Why is there no protection?" "Maybe they moved all their forces to hunt us," Taeyang suggested. "Or maybe it is another trap. Only one way to find out." They entered the chamber, weapons ready. Nothing attacked. The only sound was the wet pumping of those tubes and the distant echoes of the dying devourers from the chamber they had left behind. Taeyang approached the data core. He pulled out a small device from his belt and attached it to the core's surface. "This will copy all their data." "It needs 2 minutes," Yuna stood guard, watching the doorway. 2 minutes. They just needed 2 minutes. The device hummed as it worked. Taeyang monitored it on his data pad, watching the download progress. 1%, 5%, 10%, then Yuna heard it. A sound that made her blood freeze. The walls were moving. Not just pulsing, actually moving. The organic matter was spreading, growing, reaching toward them like fingers. "It knows we are here," she said. 30 seconds, Taeyang replied, his voice tense. The walls grew faster. The entrance they had come through was closing. The chamber was sealing itself with them inside. Faster. I cannot make it go faster. 20%, 30%. The walls were almost touching them now. Yuna could feel the heat from the organic matter, could smell the rot. "Taeyang, we need to go. 10 more seconds." 50%, 60%. The walls were closing in. Soon there would be no room left. Now, 75%, 80%. The device beeped. "Download complete." Taeyang ripped it off the core and shoved it into a sealed container on his belt. "Run!" They sprinted for the exit, but it was almost completely closed. Just a small gap remained. Yuna dove through it, her enhanced speed carrying her safely to the other side. But Taeyang was slower. He was not going to make it. Yuna grabbed his arm and pulled, using all her strength. He squeezed through just as the gap sealed completely. They could hear the walls crushing together behind them, the sound like breaking bones. They lay on the corridor floor, breathing hard. "That was close," Taeyang gasped. "Too close." Yuna stood up. "We have the data. Now we need to get out of here." But when she checked her scanner, her hope died. The entire station was converging on their location. Every devourer, every warrior, everything was coming for them. The hive mind knew they had stolen its secrets, and it was enraged. "How many?" Taeyang asked, seeing her expression. "Hundreds, maybe more than 1,000. Can we fight through them?" Yuna looked at herself. Her armor was damaged. Her weapons were almost depleted. Her leg was badly wounded. She looked at Taeyang. He was exhausted, his ammunition nearly gone. "No," she said quietly. "We cannot." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Taeyang pulled out his data pad and studied the station layout. "There is a ventilation shaft 2 corridors north," he said. "It leads to an external docking port. If we can reach it, we can call the Silent Echo for pickup. What about the devourers between here and there?" "We run, we do not fight unless we have to. That shaft is narrow. We cannot move fast through it." Taeyang nodded slowly. "You are right. One person could move fast. 2 people cannot." Yuna understood what he was suggesting. "No, it is the only way. Someone stays behind to create a distraction. Someone else takes the data and escapes. Then I stay. I am faster. I am stronger. I can hold them off longer. And you are wounded. You will not last 5 minutes." Taeyang's voice was calm, like he was discussing the weather. "I stay, you go." "Absolutely not. Yuna, think logically. The mission is what matters. The data is what matters. You are the better soldier. You have a better chance of making it to the ship. I do not care about logic right now." Yuna grabbed his shoulders. "I already lost one partner. I am not losing another. You are not losing me. I am choosing this. I will not allow it. It is not your choice." Taeyang gently removed her hands from his shoulders. He reached into his belt and pulled out a small cylindrical device. "Do you know what this is?" Yuna recognized it. "A chemical explosive. For creating pheromone clouds?" "Yes, I brought several." I can release them all at once. Every devourer in this sector will be drawn to my location. They will not even notice you in the ventilation shaft. And you will die. Maybe. Maybe not. He pulled out another device, this one from his equipment belt. It was small, barely larger than a coin. This is a personal stasis field generator. Human technology. Experimental. It creates a protective bubble around one person. Nothing can get in or out for approximately 10 minutes. Approximately? You do not even know if it works? It worked in the tests, mostly. 70% success rate, Yuna wanted to scream. 70%? You are betting your life on 70%? Better than 0%, which is what we both have if we stay together. Taiyang handed her the sealed container with the data core information. Then he handed her something else. His multi-tool. This has a beacon. Once you are safe on the ship, activate it. It will guide a rescue team to my location. If you are still alive. If I am still alive, he agreed. They could hear the devourers getting closer. The walls were starting to vibrate from the movement of so many creatures. Please, Yuna said, and she hated how her voice broke. Please do not do this, Taeyang smiled. It was the same smile he had given her when they first met. Warm and genuine. Someone once told me that humans are good at planning for failure. Well, I planned for this. I brought the stasis field. I studied the escape routes. I prepared for the possibility that one of us would need to stay behind. And it should be me. Why? Because you are human and I am not? Because your life matters less? No, because you called me your partner. And partners protect each other. He pushed her gently toward the corridor. Now go. Every second we waste is a second closer to us both dying. Yuna stood frozen. Every instinct told her to refuse, to fight beside him, to not leave him behind. But her rational mind knew he was right. The mission mattered. The data mattered. And Taeyang had a plan. A bad plan. A risky plan. But a plan. She took the data container and the multi-tool. If you die, I will never forgive you. Then I will make sure to survive. The devourers were almost here. Yuna could see them at the end of the corridor, a mass of claws and teeth in rage. Taeyang activated his chemical explosives. The pheromone cloud erupted around him, thick and potent. The devourers screamed and charged toward him, ignoring everything else. Go, he shouted. Yuna ran. She ran north toward the ventilation shaft, while behind her, Taeyang faced down 1,000 enemies alone. She did not look back. If she looked back, she would turn around and then they would both die. She reached the shaft and climbed inside, pulling herself up with her enhanced strength despite her wounded leg. The shaft was narrow and dark, but she could see light ahead, the docking port. Below her, she heard the sounds of battle, Taeyang's weapon firing, explosions, screaming. Then, suddenly, silence. Either the stasis field activated, or Taeyang was dead. Yuna climbed faster, tears streaming down her face. She had known him for less than a day. She had been cruel to him. She had doubted him. And now he might be dead because of her. She reached the docking port and triggered the emergency beacon. The silent echo would receive it and come for extraction. While she waited, she stared at the multi-tool in her hand. Taeyang had trusted her with his life. The least she could do was trust his plan. She had to believe he was alive in that stasis field. She had to believe she would see him again, because the alternative was unbearable. Yuna fired her plasma rifle and the first Devourer warrior fell, but 3 more took its place. She moved with speed that no human could match, her enhanced reflexes turning her into a blur of motion. Her energy blade sliced through armor and flesh, green blood spraying across the chamber floor. Beside her, Taeyang fought differently. He was not as fast or strong, but he was smart. He used the environment, firing at the ceiling to bring down debris on their enemies. He targeted the joints in their armor where they were weakest. He stayed close to Yuna, covering her blind spots, but there were too many. Yuna's rifle overheated. She dropped it and drew her second energy blade. Now she had one in each hand, spinning and cutting. A warrior lunged at her and she ducked under its blade arm, then drove both her weapons up through its body. It died, but another was already attacking. We cannot keep this up, Taeyang shouted. He was down to his sidearm now, firing carefully to conserve ammunition. Yuna knew he was right. They had killed maybe 20 devourers, but there were still dozens more. And they were getting tired. Even her enhanced body had limits. She fought her way to a wall, putting her back against it so nothing could attack from behind. Taeyang joined her, pressing his back against hers. "Options," he said between breaths. Yuna scanned the chamber quickly. There were 2 sealed exits. One was the way they came in. The other was on the far side of the chamber, behind the pool of dark liquid and at least 30 devourers. "We can fight through to that exit," she said. "We will die before we get halfway there. Then we die here." "No." Taeyang's voice was firm. "There is always another option. Not this time. I am sorry. I failed you like I failed Riven." A devourer charged. Yuna met it head on, her blades flashing. She killed it, but another one cut her arm. Pain burned through her, but she ignored it. She had felt worse. "Listen to me," Taeyang said urgently. "I have an idea, but I need you to trust me." "I am listening." "The devourers are a hive mind. They coordinate through biological signals. What if we could disrupt those signals? Make them confused? How?" "The chemicals I brought. I can mix them. Create something that mimics their biosignals but scrambled. It will make them attack each other instead of us." Yuna cut down another warrior. "That is theory. You have never tested it?" "No, but the chemistry is sound. I am sure it will work." "How sure?" 90%? And the other 10%? "It does nothing and we die anyway." Yuna killed 2 more devourers. Her blades were getting dull from the fighting. Her arms ached. She thought about their options. They could keep fighting and definitely die. Or they could try Taeyang's plan and probably die. Probably was better than definitely. "How long do you need?" she asked. 3 minutes to mix the compounds. Then I release it into the air." 3 minutes. Yuna looked at the advancing devourers. "I can give you that. Are you sure?" "I am a legend in the tactical division, remember? You said so yourself." She smiled grimly. "Now get to work, human. I will keep you alive." Taeyang immediately dropped his weapon and pulled out his chemical containers. He started mixing them, his hands moving quickly but carefully. Yuna stepped in front of him, both blades ready. The devourers sensed something was happening. They charged all at once, a wave of claws and blades and teeth. Yuna met them. She moved like water, flowing around attacks and striking back. Her blades cut through armor. Her feet kicked enemies away. Her entire body became a weapon. She had trained for 15 years to reach this level of skill. Now she used every bit of that training. A blade arm slashed her leg. She stumbled but did not fall. Another warrior grabbed her shoulder. She headbutted it, then stabbed it through the throat. Green blood covered her face. She did not care. 2 minutes, Taeyang called out. Yuna's right blade broke. She grabbed the blade arm from a dead devourer and used that instead. It was heavier, awkward, but it still cut. Her vision was starting to blur. Blood loss, probably. Her enhanced body could heal minor wounds, but she was accumulating too much damage too fast. A warrior's claw raked across her back. She screamed and spun around, driving her improvised blade through its head. Another attacked from the side. She blocked with her energy blade, but the impact sent her to one knee. 1 minute. Yuna forced herself back up. Her legs shook. Everything hurt. But she kept fighting. Because if she stopped, Taeyang died. And she had already lost one partner. She would not lose another, even if he was just a human. Even if she had only known him for a day. Even if she had been terrible to him. She would not let him die. 3 devourers surrounded her. She could not block all their attacks. One would get through. She braced herself, then she heard it. A hissing sound. Like gas escaping. "Done," Taeyang shouted. "Get down!" Yuna dropped flat on the ground. A cloud of vapor spread through the chamber. Invisible but fast. It smelled strange, like flowers mixed with rot. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the devourers started screaming. They turned on each other, their blade arms cutting into their own allies. The hive mind was disrupted. They could not tell friend from foe anymore. They saw each other as enemies. The chamber became chaos. Devourers killed devourers. Green blood splashed everywhere. The organized attack fell apart into mindless violence. Taeyang pulled Yuna to her feet. "Can you walk?" Yes, she was lying. Her leg was badly hurt, but she could not stay here. They moved along the wall, staying low, avoiding the fighting. The devourers ignored them completely, too busy killing each other. Taeyang had been right. His theory worked. They reached the sealed exit. Yuna gathered her remaining strength and punched through the organic matter blocking it. Her fist broke through and she tore the barrier apart. On the other side was another corridor. They stumbled through. Behind them, the sounds of fighting continued. Once they were clear, Yuna leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Taeyang checked her wounds. "You are bleeding badly," he said. "I will survive." She looked at him. Really looked at him.
"You saved us."
"Your plan worked." 90% chance, he said with a small smile. Though I admit I was worried about that other 10%. "Why did you bring those specific chemicals? Did you plan for this?" Taeyang shook his head. "No, but I studied every failed coalition mission against devourers. I noticed patterns. Standard tactics were not adapting fast enough. So I thought about what might work if everything went wrong. Humans are good at that. Good at what? Planning for failure. We fail a lot, so we get good at learning from it. We bring extra supplies because we know things go wrong. We think of backup plans because we know the first plan might fail. It is not because we are scared. It is because we are realistic." Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I was wrong about you." "About what?" "Everything. You are not a replacement for Riven. You are not weak or primitive or inferior. You are different. And maybe different is not bad." Taeyang helped her stand. "Can you keep going?" "The data core is still 2 levels down." Yuna tested her leg. "It hurt, but it would hold." "Yes, but we do this together now. No more me leading and you following. We are a team. Partners." "Partners," she agreed. They started down the corridor, moving more slowly now. Yuna was wounded and Taeyang was tired, but they were alive. Against all odds, they were still alive. And somewhere in the back of her mind, Yuna thought she could feel Riven's presence. Not sad or angry, just accepting. Moving on was not betrayal. It was survival, and survival was what they did best. The corridors were quiet. Too quiet. Yuna moved through them like a shadow, her enhanced senses alert for any sign of danger. Behind her, Taeyang followed, trying to match her silence. He was not bad for a human, she admitted to herself. He knew how to move carefully. They had been inside the station for 12 minutes. According to the plan, they should reach the data core in another 8 minutes. Everything was going smoothly. Too smoothly. Yuna stopped at a junction and checked her scanner again. The route ahead was clear. The route behind was clear. The EMP had worked perfectly. The Devourers did not know they were here. She signaled for Taeyang to follow and turned the corner. That was when everything went wrong. Alarms erupted throughout the station. Red lights became bright white, flooding the corridors. And somewhere deep in the station's core, something screamed. It was not a human scream or even an animal scream. It was the sound of a hive mind realizing it had been invaded. "Run!" Yuna shouted. They sprinted down the corridor. Behind them, Yuna could hear the walls changing. The Devourers were not just creatures. They were part of the station now. The walls opened up and things poured out. Things with too many legs and eyes that glowed in the dark. Yuna fired her plasma rifle without looking back. She heard the sounds of impacts, of screeching, of death. But more kept coming. "What happened?" Taeyang yelled as he ran beside her. "The EMP should have worked." "They adapted?" Yuna shouted back. "They must have biosensors we did not know about." She reached a door and fired at the control panel. The door slid open and they rushed through. Yuna spun around and fired again, this time at the ceiling. The support beams melted and the corridor collapsed behind them, blocking their pursuers. But it was only temporary. Already she could hear the Devourers digging through the debris. "We need a new route," Taeyang said, pulling out his datapad. Yuna was looking at her own scanner, her mind racing. The main corridors were compromised. The Devourers knew they were here now. Every route to the data core would be watched. "There," Taeyang said, pointing at his datapad. "The maintenance tunnels. They run parallel to the main corridors. We can use them to get to the data core. Those tunnels are narrow. If we get trapped there, we die. If we stay here, we die anyway." He was right, and Yuna hated that he was right. She looked around and spotted a ventilation grate. She ran to it and ripped it off with her enhanced strength. Inside. Now. They crawled into the ventilation system. It was dark and smelled like rot. Yuna could hear the Devourers breaking through the collapsed corridor behind them. She crawled faster. The ventilation shaft led to the maintenance tunnels, just like Taeyang had said. They dropped down into a narrow passage that was barely wide enough for them to walk side by side. The walls were covered in that organic material, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Yuna checked her scanner. The signal was weak down here, but she could still see the basic layout. The data core was 2 levels down and 300 meters east. We keep moving, she said. They ran through the tunnels. Every few meters they passed openings where devourers could emerge. Yuna kept her weapon ready, her eyes scanning constantly. Beside her, Taeyang was breathing hard but keeping pace. This does not make sense, she muttered. The EMP should have worked. I checked the intelligence reports. They were only 3 weeks old. The devourers should not have evolved this fast. Maybe they did not evolve naturally, Taeyang said. What do you mean? Think about it. Every time we attack them, we use the same tactics. EMP, breach, infiltrate. What if they learned? What if they adapted specifically to counter our methods? Yuna wanted to argue, but she could not. The idea made terrible sense. The devourers had a hive mind. They shared information across their entire species. If one hive learned something, all hives could learn it. If that is true, she said slowly, then all our standard tactics are compromised. Yes. They ran in silence for a moment. Then Yuna spoke again, and her voice was quieter than before. I should have listened to you. About the pheromones. We can talk about that later. Right now we need to focus on surviving. They reached a junction. Yuna checked her scanner, but something was wrong. The signal was breaking up, showing conflicting information. Were the devourers ahead or behind? Left or right? The scanner could not tell anymore. They are jamming us, she said. Can you fix it? No. The interference is biological. They are releasing something into the air that disrupts our electronics. Taeyang looked around the junction. There were 4 possible paths. We need to choose. Which way? Yuna stared at the scanner, willing it to work. But it was useless. For the first time in years, she was operating blind. No intelligence. No sensors. No advantage. This was how Riven had died. Blind and unprepared when the enemy adapted. Yuna. Taeyang's voice pulled her back. Which way? She forced herself to focus, think. The data core should be east. That meant the right corridor. Probably. Right, she said. They moved into the right corridor. It sloped downward, which was good. They needed to go down. But after 50 meters, Yuna saw something that made her heart sink. The corridor ended in a wall of organic matter. It was fresh, still wet, pulsing with life. The devourers had sealed this path. Back, she ordered. They turned around and ran back to the junction. But when they got there, they found that 2 of the other corridors had also been sealed. Only one path remained open. They are hurting us, Taeyang said. I know. This is a trap. I know. Yuna looked at the open corridor. It led north away from the data core, but it was their only option. Unless we could blow through one of these walls, she suggested. With what? Our plasma rifles. That organic matter is too thick. It would take 10 minutes of sustained fire, and we would attract every devourer in the station. Then what do you suggest? Taeyang was quiet for a moment. Then he said, we take the path they are giving us, but we stay alert. When they spring the trap, we be ready. That is a terrible plan. Do you have a better one? She did not. They entered the open corridor, weapons raised. Yuna's every instinct screamed at her that this was wrong. They were walking into an ambush. But there was no other choice. The corridor led them deeper into the station. The organic matter on the walls grew thicker. The pulsing heartbeat sound grew louder. And then they entered a chamber. It was large, circular, with a high ceiling. In the center was a pool of dark liquid that bubbled and steamed. Around the walls, Yuna could see shapes moving in the shadows. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Back away slowly, she whispered. But before they could move, the entrance behind them sealed. Organic matter grew across the doorway like fast-growing plants, blocking their escape. The shapes in the shadows moved forward. They were devourers, but larger than any Yuna had seen before. Warriors. They had blades for arms and armor-like shells covering their bodies. Any ideas? Taeyang asked, his voice steady despite the situation. Yuna counted the enemies. Too many. Even with her enhanced abilities, she could not fight them all. They were trapped in a chamber with no escape and overwhelming numbers. For the first time since Riven died, Yuna felt real fear. Yes, she said quietly. We fight. And we die fighting, she raised her weapon. Beside her, Taeyang did the same. The devourers charged. The ship was called the Silent Echo. It was small and fast, designed for secret missions where nobody could see you coming. Yuna sat in the pilot seat, running through her checks with practiced efficiency. Every switch, every button, every system had to be perfect. Mistakes got people killed. Taeyang sat in the co-pilot seat studying a datapad. He had been quiet for the first hour of their journey, which Yuna appreciated. But now he was looking at her mission plan, and she could see his forehead wrinkle the way humans did when they were thinking hard. "Something wrong?" she asked, though she did not really care about the answer. "I was looking at your infiltration plan," he said. "And? It is very thorough. Very detailed. You have thought of almost everything." "Almost?" Taeyang hesitated. "Have you considered using devourer pheromones?" Yuna kept her eyes on the controls. "Explain." "Well, devourers communicate partly through chemical signals, pheromones. If we could synthesize the right combination, we could essentially become invisible to them. They would think we are just part of their hive." "That is unreliable," Yuna said flatly. "Pheromone signatures change depending on the hive, the location, and the situation. One wrong molecule and they would know we are intruders. The EMP is proven. It works. But what if it does not work this time? Devourers adapt. Their technology evolves. What worked on 17 missions might fail on the 18th. Then we adapt in the moment. We do not base our primary plan on human improvisation." She saw Taeyang's jaw tighten slightly. "It is not improvisation. I have been studying devourer biology for 6 months. I have analyzed samples from 4 different hives. I know the base compounds that appear in all of them. 6 months. Yuna finally looked at him. "I have been fighting devourers for 8 years. Do you really think 6 months of reading reports makes you an expert?" "No, but I think my perspective might be valuable because it is different. Humans do not have enhanced senses like you. We cannot rely on being faster or stronger, so we have to think differently. We have to find other solutions. Other solutions are for people who are not good enough to use the correct solutions." Taeyang put down his datapad. "Yuna, I am trying to help. I did not ask for your help. I asked you to follow the plan. A good plan should be flexible. A good soldier should follow orders." They sat in tense silence. The stars moved past the viewing window like drops of light in an ocean of darkness. Yuna returned to her checks, making notes on her own datapad. The mission would go her way. She had done this enough times to know what worked. After another hour, they began their final preparations. The station was now visible ahead, a dark mass against the stars. It looked wrong. Devourers changed everything they touched, making technology blend with organic matter. The station had once been a mining facility. Now it looked like it was breathing. "Equipment check," Yuna said, standing up. They moved to the equipment locker. Yuna pulled out her weapons, a plasma rifle and 2 energy blades. She checked each one carefully. Then she grabbed her scanner, her EMP device, and her breathing mask. Everything was standard issue. Everything was tested and proven. Taeyang was packing his gear. Yuna watched him and frowned. "What is all that?" she asked. He was loading small containers into his belt pouches. "Medical gel, chemical compounds, some basic tools. We have medical gel in the standard kit." "Why do you need extra?" "Just in case." "In case of what?" "In case something goes wrong." Yuna stepped closer. "If you follow the plan, nothing will go wrong. Those supplies are extra weight. They will slow you down. They are small. I can carry them easily. I am telling you they are not necessary." Taeyang looked at her. "And I am telling you I feel better having them." "Is that a problem?" "Yes, it shows you do not trust the plan. It shows I am prepared for multiple situations. It shows you are scared." The words hung in the air. Taeyang's expression changed. For the first time, Yuna saw a flash of anger in his eyes. "I am not scared," he said quietly. "But I'm not stupid either. I have read the reports, Yuna. I know that missions do not always go as planned. I know that people die when they are not prepared for the unexpected. You can call it fear if you want. I call it being smart. Smart would be trusting your partner's expertise. I do trust your expertise. But I also trust my own instincts." Yuna wanted to argue more, but the proximity alert sounded. They were approaching the station. There was no more time for debate. "Fine," she said. "Bring your extra supplies. But when they become a problem, do not say I did not warn you." They suited up in silence. Yuna activated her armor's camouflage system, and her body shimmered as the technology bent light around her. Taeyang did the same. They moved to the airlock, ready to deploy. "Remember the plan," Yuna said. "We stay together. We move quietly. We follow the route I showed you. No improvisation, no experiments, just the mission. Understood, Taeyang said. But as they stood there waiting for the ship to get into position, Yuna could see him adjusting those extra pouches on his belt. She shook her head. Humans were so stubborn, so convinced that their way was better, even when they had no experience. Riven would have trusted her completely. Riven would have followed the plan without question. Riven had been a real partner. This human was just a liability. The ship slowed. Yuna activated the EMP device, a small disc that would send out an electromagnetic pulse when they got close enough. The station's outer sensors would go dark, giving them a window to breach the hull. 30 seconds, she said. Taeyang checked his weapon one last time. 20 seconds. She could see the station's surface now, covered in that organic material that looked like skin. 10 seconds, her finger hovered over the EMP trigger. Now. She pressed it. The device sent out its pulse, invisible but powerful. On her scanner, she watched the station's outer sensors blink out. Perfect, breach in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The airlock opened. They jumped out into the void, using their suit thrusters to guide them toward the station. Yuna's hands moved with practiced precision, making tiny adjustments to her trajectory. Behind her, she heard Taeyang's thrusters fire. He was keeping up, at least. They landed on the hull with magnetic boots. Yuna pulled out her cutting tool and began making an opening. The metal peeled away like paper, revealing the dark interior of the station. She dropped inside first, landing in a crouch with her weapon ready. The corridor was empty. The emergency lights cast everything in red. She could hear sounds in the distance, clicking, scraping, the wet sounds of devourer movement. Taeyang landed beside her. He looked around, his weapon raised. So far, so good, he whispered. Yuna did not respond. She activated her scanner and checked the route ahead. Clear. She started moving, staying close to the walls, her footsteps silent. The mission had begun, and despite all her planning, despite all her experience, Yuna could not shake the feeling that something was about to go very wrong. Yuna stood in the commander's office with her arms crossed. Her silver skin caught the blue lights of the space station, making her look like she was made of metal. She was not happy. In fact, she had not been happy for 3 months, not since Riven died. "You cannot be serious," she said to Commander Velthar. Her voice was cold and sharp. The commander was a tall creature with 4 arms and gray skin that looked like stone. He did not look up from his datapad. "I am completely serious. You need a new partner. The mission cannot wait any longer. I work better alone. No one works alone in this unit. You know the rules." Velthar finally looked at her. His 3 eyes showed no emotion. "The human arrives in 10 minutes. You will meet him, you will train with him, and you will complete the mission together." "A human?" Yuna's voice rose with anger. "You are replacing Riven with a human?" "I am not replacing anyone. I am assigning you a partner who is available and qualified." "Qualified?" Yuna laughed, but there was no joy in it. Humans have been in space for barely 50 years. They have no enhanced abilities, no telepathy, no advanced reflexes. They are weak and slow. "How is that qualified?" Velthar set down his datapad. "The human has completed the same training as everyone else in this unit. He passed all the tests. He earned his place here." "The tests are too easy for them now," Yuna said. "You lowered the standards when humans joined the coalition." "That is not true, and you know it." The commander's voice was hard now. "Your anger is clouding your judgment. Riven's death was not your fault. Stop punishing yourself by pushing away help." Yuna felt something twist in her chest. The memories came back like they always did. The mission on the ice planet. The ambush. Riven's face as the enemy weapon fired. She had been too slow. Just half a second too slow. "I do not need help from a primitive species," she said quietly. "Then you will learn." Velthar stood up. "He will be here any moment." "Be professional, Yuna. That is an order." Before she could respond, the door opened. A human walked in. He was shorter than Yuna, which most humans were. His hair was black and messy. He wore the standard coalition uniform, but somehow it looked more casual on him. His skin was a warm brown color and his eyes were dark and bright at the same time. He smiled when he saw her. "Hi, you must be Yuna. I am Taeyang." He held out his hand. Yuna stared at the hand. She knew this was a human custom called a handshake. She found it strange and unnecessary. She did not take his hand. "I am aware of who you are. she said. Taeyang lowered his hand, but his smile did not completely fade. Right, well, it is great to meet you. I have heard a lot about your work. You are a legend in the tactical division. Flattery is not necessary. It is not flattery if it is true. He turned to the commander. Sir, reporting for duty. Velthar nodded. Good. Yuna will brief you on the mission. You leave in 6 hours. Dismissed. As they walked out of the office together, Yuna kept several steps ahead. She did not want to walk beside him. She did not want him to think they were equals. So, Taeyang said, catching up to her anyway. I know this must be difficult. Losing a partner is... Do not speak about Riven. Yuna stopped and turned to face him. You did not know him. You have no right to mention him. Taeyang held up his hands. I am sorry. I did not mean to offend you. Then stop talking and listen. She started walking again, heading toward the briefing room. The mission is simple. There is a space station that has been taken over by the Devourers. They are a species that consumes everything in their path. They are dangerous and they are spreading. We need to infiltrate the station and steal data about their hive network. Okay, what is the plan? They entered the briefing room. Yuna activated the holographic display. A 3D image of the station appeared, rotating slowly in the air. We will use an electromagnetic pulse to disable their outer sensors, she explained. Then we breach the hull here at the maintenance section. We move through these corridors, avoid patrols, and reach the data core. We extract the information and return to the ship. Total time 45 minutes. Taeyang studied the hologram. What about their biosensors? Devourers use organic technology. An EMP might not affect all their systems. It will affect enough of them. This is standard protocol. It has worked on 17 previous missions. But the Devourers adapt. Every report I read said they evolve quickly. What worked before might not work now. Yuna felt her anger rising again. Are you questioning my expertise? I have been doing this for 15 years. How long have you been off your planet? 2 years? 3? 4, Taeyang said calmly. And I am not questioning you. I am just asking questions so I understand the plan better. Then understand this, I lead, you follow. I make decisions, you obey them. I speak, you listen. That is how this partnership works. That is not a partnership. That is a hierarchy. Call it whatever you want. Those are the terms. Yuna turned off the hologram. We depart in 6 hours. Use that time to prepare. Check your equipment, study the station layout, and stay out of my way. She walked toward the door, but Taeyang spoke again. Yuna. She stopped but did not turn around. I know you do not want me here. I know you think humans are not good enough for this work, but I am here and I will do my job. You do not have to like me. You do not have to be my friend, but we have to trust each other on that station, or we will both die. I am willing to trust you. I hope you can find a way to trust me. Yuna stood silent for a moment. Then she walked out without answering. Back in her quarters, she sat on her bed and looked at the small device on her shelf. It was Riven's communication badge. She had kept it after he died. Sometimes she held it and pretended she could still feel his presence through it. He is nothing like you, she whispered to the badge. He is weak. He asks too many questions. He smiles too much. He will get himself killed, or worse, he will get me killed. The badge did not answer. It never did. Yuna closed her eyes. 3 months ago, she had a partner she trusted with her life. Now she had a human who probably did not even know how to hold a weapon properly. This mission was going to be a disaster. She could feel it.